And we're live from Council.
Well, good morning, everyone. I would like to call this continuation of council meeting to order and acknowledge that we meet on the traditional land of Treaty 6 territory and Métis homeland, and acknowledge the diverse indigenous peoples whose ancestors' footsteps have marked this territory for centuries, such as Cree, Dene, Saulteaux, Blackfoot, Gorasu, as well as Métis and Inuit, now settlers from around the world. And we'll do a roll call of council colleagues. Councillor Wright.
Good morning.
Councillor Knack.
Good morning.
Councillor Principe.
Good morning.
Councillor Stevenson.
Good morning.
Councillor Paquette.
Good morning.
Councillor Tang.
Good morning.
Councillor Hamilton.
Good morning.
Councillor Rutherford.
Good morning.
Councillor Salvador.
Good morning.
Councillor Cartmel.
Good morning.
Councillor Rice.
Good morning.
And Councillor Jans.
Good morning.
All right, so everyone is here. We have a little bit of housekeeping, right? Are we ready to, there's a suggestion to delete item 9.9 from the agenda.
Yes, please.
Yeah, can Councillor Hamilton, can I come to you to do so?
Yeah, I'll move that item 9.9 be deleted from the agenda.
Okay, need a seconder. Councillor Stevenson, you want to second that?
Second.
Okay. All right. So please vote.
Councillor Principe is a yes.
Thanks, Councillor
Yes.
Principe.
Yes, Madam Clerk.
Councillor Hamilton's a yes.
Thanks, Councillor Hamilton. I think I heard you, Councillor Paquette. If you could just say your vote.
I'm a yes.
Thanks so much.
Yes.
Thanks,
Jans.
Councillor Jans. We have all the votes.
Okay, display the votes, please. That is carried. Okay. So with that, we are on to two bylaws, right? 8.1 and 8.2?
Yeah, they're not cross-referenced. They're
No, they're
very
not.
different matters.
So we will deal with 8.1 first, bylaw 20868, council procedures bylaw amendment. This was exempted by Councillor Tang. Is there a presentation or we can go question?
No, this is housekeeping
Yeah.
changes. The council approved a pilot with the majority of these improvements, and this is just codifying it with a few other changes. Nancy and I are happy to take any questions.
Okay, Councillor Tang, go ahead, please.
Sure, great, thank you. I think some of the changes is coming about because of Bill 20, is that right?
That's correct.
And even though they're still like in engagement phase with the regulation, you're just trying to be proactive about it.
This change won't be affected by the regulations.
Oh, I see. As in, but I guess I was wondering if it's typical for, a legislation hasn't really, the ink isn't quite dried yet, but is it pretty common for us to be proactive?
The change we're making really also that relates to Bill 20 is only to put a practice that we've had for a number of years into words in the bylaw, so
Okay.
we're really confident with it.
Okay, and so typically, for example, we receive an email, but now like that email might contain video and.
Oh, apologies, that's not the change that's affected by Bill 20. The one by Bill 20 is putting into words that members of the public can participate in public hearings virtually or by telephone.
Okay.
That's the Bill 20 change. The other change is something that we are just updating
Okay.
because it makes sense that members of the public should have an opportunity to submit in a form that is most accessible to them.
So now we can expect to receive, or I guess now that we're broadcasting this, we could receive more things like videos and voicemail.
The option is available, yep.
That's great. I think it's great to have all those options. And then I was wondering, just in terms of the speaking during public hearing panel, it will be panels in favor and then opposed. In a regular public hearing, like we already do that, right?
You do that in practice anyway. What this will affect is the large public hearings. You will do one panel in favor followed by a panel of opposed and repeat.
Yeah. I was reflecting on the district plan where one side is clearly like way more than the other. That panel of in favor and then the opposition, do you think it worked well?
I think that's a great question to ask your colleagues. We were asked to prepare that, and so
Okay.
council gave us direction by motion, and this is codifying the direction previously received. It was put in place for large public hearings, and again,
Yeah, no, I recall that, and I
Yeah.
think part of that came from because Calgary was doing that for their large public hearing, and I think as the public hearing went on, anyways, it's just very disproportionate in the end, and some of the informal feedback I heard was like, well, maybe it didn't quite work out the way we thought it was gonna work out, so just wanted to put that out there before we codify that. I mean, we've been doing that anyways for regular public hearing, I don't have an issue, and
I don't think we need it. I think the process worked before. The other recommendations that are in here, I do think work well.
Yeah.
And as Nancy's mentioned, a lot of the practices that we've had have been in place for a number of years. We're just codifying them. But again, if you want to take it out, it could be reconsidered at another date, but right now it has been included.
yeah, and then like kind of format of that also kind of depends on how many people are registered and does it make sense to do panels? And I think in our case it did, and we didn't get 1,000 speakers, right? And I feel like that was okay, and to determine that, on a one-off basis, I didn't find it, I don't know, unless it was very problematic for you, I'm wondering like, what does it matter if we codify it here versus kind of make some of those decisions depending on the situation? That's all.
I would say for statutory public hearings, we
you wanted
prefer
to
to
be
have
more-
the rules known by all the parties well in advance. We permitted that because there wasn't time for us to get the bylaw
I
done
see.
before the district planning. So particularly flexibility at committee, more flexibility at council, less flexibility at staff public hearings.
Got it, okay. That's a good rationale, thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Tang. Councillor Stevenson?
Yeah, I just wanted to clarify as well that the alternating is between panels, correct? Not individual speakers?
That's correct.
So for most of our standard public hearings, we don't typically see full panels, but let's say if we did have 8 speakers in favor and then 20 in opposition, it would still sort of turn out we do in favor first, that would be one panel, then we go to the opposed, one panel, but then there wouldn't be another positive, so it would just be opposed?
Yes.
Okay.
This is, because we never know how many speakers we're going to have, we do
Yeah.
the best we can. And again, people can register right up until such times as the public hearing's closed. So.
Yeah, no, I think when there are the larger public conversations, I feel that allowing participants to hear a range of perspectives in the alternating panels is really helpful, and it sounds like this won't be triggered very often. Great, thank you, no other questions.
Thank you. Any other questions on this? I am not seeing any. Councillor Tang, you want to move the,
Sure, I can move the first reading.
okay. Need a seconder.
Second.
Councillor Rutherford. Okay, so we have first reading on the floor. Anyone to speak? Councillor Rutherford.
Yeah, I won't take too much time, but I was really excited actually when I read this bylaw and seeing the changes that administration brought forward to make the process more inclusive. I always find public hearing, and I was grappling with it again in this last public hearing about some of the power dynamics and stuff that exist within public hearing. So I think any way that we can make that more accessible, so allowing folks to, leave voice messages for us on a specific land use issue and other submissions that are not necessarily just written, I think is a great way to see what kind of engagement we get with this change. So thank you for bringing that proactively forward, and I'm looking forward to seeing what kind of engagement we get from this change. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Rutherford. Councillor Tang, you want to close?
Yeah, I think we're always being proactive about codifying procedures, and I think this is a good practice. And I think on some of the pieces that you just shared, we've been doing things and allowing more options for the public to participate. Actually, came down even before some of the legislation were introduced, and I think that speaks to the openness and transparency of city government, as it always stands. And I think this conversation just is a good reminder of that. And we put a lot of thought into all the procedures that we do have, and then thanks to staff and team who who kind of put that considerations in, so thank you.
Thank you. So please vote.
In favor.
Thanks, Councillor Jans.
Councillor Hamilton's a yes.
Thanks, Councillor Hamilton. Thank you, Councillor Wright. Just wait for two more.
Yes.
Thanks, Councillor Cartmel. We have all the votes.
Display the votes, please. That is carried. And please carry on. Yeah.
Second reading, please, for bylaw 20868.
Second.
Okay, please vote.
Councillor Hamilton's a yes.
Thanks, Councillor Hamilton.
Yes.
Thanks, Councillor Jans. We have all the votes.
Display the votes, please. That is carried.
Consideration for third reading of bylaw 20868.
Second.
Okay, please vote for consideration.
Councillor Hamilton's a yes.
Jans is yes.
Thank you. We have all the votes.
Display the votes, please. That is carried.
And I'll move the third and final reading of bylaw 20868 to council procedures bylaw amendment.
Second.
Thank you. So please vote for the final reading.
Councillor Hamilton's a yes.
Thanks, Councillor Hamilton.
Yes.
Thanks, Councillor Jans. We have all the votes. Mirsohi.
Display the votes, please. That is carried. Now we are on to bylaws on 8.2, bylaw 20915, amendments to bylaw 18155, council procedures bylaw. And I'll go to maybe there's a little presentation on this or some remarks that will set the context for this.
Absolutely. So the bylaw highlights two potential changes for council's consideration. We're just talking a little bit about how Calgary was doing things. We learn a lot from our colleagues down south, and they do have different rules when council is participating remotely. So the bylaw does make recommendations about having council's cameras on when addressing the public and voting, again, just for your consideration. And there has been conversations at Agenda Review Committee over a number of months about the best way to provide agendas that are complete, particularly for council. We've had a look at the statistics as it relates to committee agendas, and they go out 10 days in advance, and they're on the whole 95% accurate. There's a few changes sometimes after the agendas go out, but as you will notice from today's council agenda, we release agendas 10 days in advance, and they're before the committee meetings, and so we don't have all of the information when agendas are originally released for council. And so there had been a discussion about reverting back to agendas going out for all council and committee meetings the Thursday before, and we're happy to take any questions council might have.
All right, Councillor Stevenson, you exempted this.
Yeah, thank you very much. I was initially supportive of the change around the timeline, but I've heard a number of concerns from community members just around having adequate time to review, which I think are really important concerns. So I know that one of the concerns had just been in terms of the completeness of the agenda. Looking at our proposed calendar for next year, it seems like that might help to mitigate some of that, given that there's a bit more. We'll have the committee week Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and then be setting the council agenda on the Thursday, so may have a better sense of what items will be included.
It may help a little bit. There, of course, is a very short turnaround when a committee meeting happens on a Wednesday or Thursday to get it out on a Thursday agenda. So there may be a small change. When we looked at the stats, I will say that's one thing we did notice, is that in those weeks where there's 2 weeks, but it doesn't mean perfection for the council agenda.
For sure, and I think, when I reflect on sort of the sensitivity of having a complete agenda, I think is more relevant at the committee level, because that's when people can attend and speak, whereas you know, listening into conversations is maybe not as time imperative. So at this point, I'm not inclined to support either of the bylaw amendments, but happy to hear from my colleagues and then just consider how we proceed if we move a motion that we then vote against. That seems to be a theme.
Thank you. Councillor Jans?
Yeah, I wanted to move an amendment to remove the 10 days and keep it as status quo. And I believe the clerk has suggested wording.
Yeah, we have it. So would you like to move first reading with that change, Councillor Jans? And we'll just put that up on the screen.
So moved. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. MJ's just going to put it up on the screen. So
Yeah,
Councillor
please.
Jans is moving first reading, and I believe it will be to delete sections 3 and 4, but MJ's going to confirm that for me, and that will revert, if that passes, that will revert the agendas to being all released on the Thursdays as they currently are.
So they will be released 10 days prior to the
This,
meeting?
it's the status quo. We're not making, if council approves Councillor Jans's amendment, then nothing changes.
Okay, what is the status quo? Can
The
you-
status quo is all the agendas go out a minimum of 10 days in
Okay,
advance.
got it.
Agendas go out Thursdays at noon,
Yeah.
as
got
per
it.
the current bylaw.
Good.
Yeah.
So we have that on the floor. We'll see it here. Here,
If we could just get a seconder, then MJ can post.
I'll second that.
Thanks, Marcel.
Okay. Okay, that is, here we go. Councillor Jans, you have questions on this? I mean, can you make the introduction, sorry?
Sure. Like Councillor Stevens had said, we heard from a lot of folks that the 10 days was very much desirable, and so this would guarantee that that part would be removed by passing this amendment. I know some folks don't like the entirety of the changes, and you can still vote down the whole thing, but for sure, I wanted to make sure that this part was addressed.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Wright, go ahead, please.
Oh, I actually had questions on the,
We can ask questions on, you just want to focus on the amendment at this time,
Well,
Eileen, or we
oh,
can ask
okay,
questions?
so I'm-
Let me see clarity from clerk.
okay, so I guess, to the mover of the amendment, I'm just trying to see, okay, sorry, now I see what sections 3 and 4 you're referring to. Yeah, no, I don't have any other questions, sorry, that's okay.
Okay, so we'll focus on the amendment now, right, then we'll come back.
Sorry, just point of order. We're
Yeah.
not, if I'm correct, it's not action amendment, it's first reading with those changes. So we should be able to ask
Okay.
all.
Then we can ask questions broadly as well. Okay. You want to have questions broadly, Councillor Wright?
Okay,
Go ahead,
broadly
please.
then, I'm just wondering, so it's normally 13 weeks to prepare a report. Has any, so I guess have the branches, departments or whatever looked at their process in that report preparation in order to have them in time for the 10 days prior?
That's what we currently do, and the process is working fine. The recommended changes would have given the departments a tiny little bit of extra time, but it was, when this initially came up in Q1 of this year, it was to do with staffing resources in my own team that was causing some pressures, and that's why we were looking to find some efficiencies as resources were significantly reduced at the time.
At the time, so the resources are back to where they should
They
be?
are trending in a more positive direction.
Okay, excellent. Okay, thank you very much, that's all I had.
Thank you. Councillor Salvador?
Yeah, thank you. So maybe just to the mover, just trying to understand, with this amendment, what is your intention around the retention of some of the changes that are proposed? Like, I understand that you, have discomfort with the agenda release time, which I do as well, and would be supportive of that change. But am I to understand that you are supportive of the changes around cameras being on, kind of thing? Is that right?
Thank you for the question. Personally, I'm not. I would be happy to vote down the whole thing, but I just didn't want to roll the dice with my colleagues. If some folks, were willing to pass the one element with, I wanted to make sure, kind of in a sense of dividing the changes, making sure that we could address them. I was supportive of the cams, but I've had a number of challenges recently, just with bandwidth, of taking Like I was leaving a meeting recently and I had to join it on the bus. And had I been required to vote with my camera on, I would have been, I wasn't in a private element, but I would have been on the bus, and it would have been, I think, awkward not just for me, but for all of you watching sort of the bumpy, jivey video.
Okay. So I guess I feel the same way, and maybe just a procedural question to the city clerk. Can this even be split since it's a bylaw?
So
If
it's an
there were-
amending bylaw, so the
Yeah.
amending bylaw as presented can be amended.
Right.
Interesting that the mover of this motion might be highlighting non-support for the remaining elements that could stay in. So if the majority of councillors don't support it, I would suggest removing the amendment, put first reading on the floor, and then defeat it.
That would be my
Yeah.
suggested
And
way
if it,
forward as well.
if it for whatever reason passes first reading, it can still be amended before
Yeah.
second. And so it's a great temperature check of your colleague.
Yeah, maybe I would look to the chair, but maybe that's a good path forward if we want to take this off the floor and then just move forward with first reading.
Because what I kind of sensed was that, some people would like to see the camera thing be changed, right? So, but if still there's opportunity to amend, to keep the camera part. So explain to me again.
Yeah, so this has not typically been this council's practice, but it is absolutely okay as a first, in order for a bylaw to pass, it requires 3 readings.
Yeah.
So that it has been my recommendations in the past that you put first reading on the floor, and if first reading fails, then there is no need for council to debate any more amendments because the matter has been decided by the assembly and it's over. If it does pass first reading, you still have an opportunity to put amendments on the floor before second, and that narrows down the conversation. So I think it's been good. You've heard from a few of your colleagues, and I would suggest maybe the most efficient way would be to put first reading on the floor
Okay.
as it has been presented by administration, and if it fails, then there's no need to craft any more amendments.
Okay. So I'll go to Councillor Tang, then go to Councillor Cardinal, then we'll make that, okay, Councillor Tang, go ahead, yeah.
Yeah, great. I think it would be my preference as well if the amendment on the table right now isn't there. It would just revert back to the original. I guess some questions. So I think what I'm hearing is that the problem we're trying to solve is to have a more complete agenda package. It's a more smoother process in the report preparation.
So I don't want to go too far down this path, but the problem that I raised earlier this year in Agenda Review Committee, and I have throughout various times since I've been in this position, is the resources required to prepare agendas just fluctuate from time to time.
Right.
And so obviously agendas are going to be prepared in the timelines that are required, and so there had been discussions if there would be appetite to going back to the way things used to be.
And I hear that you have looked at your resources to be how to manage within those fluctuating
Yep,
conditions to
absolutely.
be more efficient. But how long does it take typically to prepare a report that gets published? Like 2
It's
months?
a great question for Eddie. It really, it
Right.
depends. Sometimes I can report in an hour, and sometimes reports take me 3 months.
Yeah, but like on average.
I think typically we need to be ready about 6 weeks before we go through the process. So
Right.
it's taking on average, 6 to 8 weeks.
Is that like, has it always been like that? Or has it the length of time increased?
I haven't been here forever, but
It's changed over time, and it depends on the complexity.
Sure.
A long time ago, departments just brought reports forward directly, and they didn't go through the city manager's office. And I think what's been helpful over the last decades is the more integrated approach so that council gets more fulsome information, and that just takes time. But I mean, it takes as long as it takes. It really depends. Some
Yeah.
of our reports are more short than others.
Yeah, I guess what I'm also trying to get at too is, I think in the past we've talked about layers of approval we have to get to a certain report. And as much as, I think by the time it gets to the clerk's side, you're managing the resource accordingly and trying to be efficient that way. I'm wondering if there's any efficiency on the report development side of things to kind of shorten that and make, also seeking efficiency so that the final product I guess also as a way to kind of address the problem that Aileen's talking about.
Yeah, I've had some thoughts about this too, and I think that part of it is, we've got to be more clear with council too, and what it takes to develop the report. So a lot of times we get, pressure to turn reports around quickly, but some of those reports take a little time to get out the door. Just being more clear on our side to make sure that council's aware of the timeline that we need to prepare the report in order for it to come to council in the appropriate time frame, I think is important. The process itself, it might take 6 to 8 weeks to go through that process, or 6 weeks to go through the actual process of getting the report on the agenda, but backdating that to the appropriate time to give us the time to develop the report so it lands on agendas at the right time is important.
And I guess what I don't have a motion or anything to provide that direction, but I would just encourage perhaps, is there a way to leverage our service innovation branch to kind of look at some of these process improvement opportunities to help on this item, without shortening the publication timeline? Maybe I'll just leave that with you, Eddie. I'm happy to take that to chat further about what that will look like. Just on the first piece around the camera, I think when Councillor Jans talked about kind of in a moving vehicle, I was wondering, do council members have sick days?
Sick days?
No.
No, we don't. Okay, so if we are sick, it is our duty to attend meetings and make decisions, and that's really important.
You are elected and
Exactly.
you take an oath of office and you are able to participate in meetings.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's, something that we don't have, that perhaps in a typical job, people might be able to kind of take some time off. In kind of that public scrutiny setting, and I absolutely understand that it's important for the public to observe their elected officials. I mean, I feel like I can think of a few times when I would just not want to be on camera because of the state I'm in, and I feel like my colleagues might resonate with that too, because we don't really have some of those other alternatives that we would in a normal job, because this is our number one duty. So I will just put that out there.
Okay.
I'm out of time,
Yes,
and I will just say the rest in speaking. Thank you.
thank you. Councillor Carmel?
So, back to the splitting of the two pieces. I would support one piece of this and not the other, but I can't vote yes for something I don't support in the hopes that it gets amended out later. I would rather vote on the amendment to say, get it out so I can support the rest. So I know this is a bit of an order of operations thing, but I would prefer to see the amendment stand.
So the amendments, the motion as amended is on the floor and can only be withdrawn with unanimous consent. So
Maybe I'm leaking into speaking to it. On the camera on thing, I think there's a 80-20 rule here, where most of the time when someone's attending virtually, they're sitting at a desk in front of a computer. And to say, put your camera on when it's your turn to talk is not asking a lot. I went through cancer surgery a couple of years ago, and managed to attend virtually without, making that a public thing. It can be done. If someone's riding the bus and would prefer not to put their camera on, they can say, I'm in a place where it's not conducive to the discussion to have my camera on. I think there's a middle ground here. And I think what's coming forward is that too often the cameras are off, not because someone's sick or because they're on a bus, but they just don't want to put their camera on. And that's different.
Okay, that's Councillor Carmel. Councillor Knack.
Thank you, Mayor Sohi. I'm debating a hypothetical, actually, or asking a question about a hypothetical that hasn't been done. I think I can ask it this way. Right now, does the chair have the ability to ask for a camera to be put on? Essentially, if nothing were to change, say this bylaw were completely not put forward, does the chair currently have the authority to make that request?
The chair controls the decorum and the process of the meetings and can always ask the participants to participate in a matter that is compliant with the bylaw. So I'd say yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's what I'm
Yeah,
curious
absolutely.
about.
The chair
Okay.
maintains decorum.
Okay. All right. I think I don't have any other questions. Thank you.
Okay, can you move the second round?
Sure, I'll move a second round.
Second?
Okay, please vote. Yes.
E-scribe just needs a moment. Aaron? Yep, Aaron's on it. Aaron is close to on it. If the, yeah, would you mind just doing unanimous consent for second round?
Yeah, the
Apologies,
unanimous
E-scribe stuff.
consent, yeah, it is. It
Thank
is
you.
given. Thank you. Councillor Wright, go ahead, please.
Thank you. Okay, so when I asked the question about process changes, the clerk had said it was mainly due to lack of resources to get the reports in time.
Nope, not about the reports, about getting the agendas out. So the,
Okay, so my
My
concern
team,
was
my
with.
team, not
my-
admin.
Okay, so my concern was with the process changes for preparing the reports, which is 13 weeks is the normal standard time.
yeah, that was not part of
Oh,
the issues.
okay, so then so the actual preparation of the reports is not the concern? It's just putting them on the agenda?
What you see before you is a comprehensive list, and it looks fairly straightforward. There's at a minimum 12 to 15 people that work preparing all of the packages and dealing with, I would call, all the back of house issues. And when there is any kind of deviation in full staffing complement, it causes increases in overtime and extra time and just challenges overall. So that's what this was about.
So the reports are getting to you in time, it's just a matter of your team uploading them?
It's a little bit more complicated than that, and sometimes we have reports on time, and sometimes on time for us is usually 10 days before they're due. The flurry of activity usually happens about 72 hours before the agendas go out on the Thursday. And then every time there's a change from an agenda going out to the meeting, it requires multiple steps. Even though it's a simple motion for council to add those reports, there's a lot of work that gets duplicated multiple times.
Okay,
So we were
but
just looking for some efficiencies is all. This was not about administration at all.
Okay, so but there shouldn't be a flurry of activity. I wouldn't think if to have it done on a Thursday or the 10 days beforehand, if administration is getting the reports to you on a timely basis, or do you need to have a requirement for them to get them to you 15 days ahead of time so you can get them loaded 10 days ahead?
There's a lot of times circumstances come up that require reports to be added between agendas going out and agendas coming to the actual meeting. As part of any management review of processes when resources are limited, I was really just looking to create an easier path for my employees at the time.
So, Mr. Robar, are your staff able to get the reports to them in a more timely manner to get them loaded?
Yeah, I think the issue here is more on the agenda building side, but there's definitely times when we're pushed on timeframes, and I think that's what I discussed earlier about, us being more diligent on explaining to council what those timeframes are required to kind of get reports to council. Okay.
So if it does seem that there's going to be a lengthy delay, could we then push that item off of the agenda onto the next? I mean, that's always a possibility as well.
And I think what Aileen's talking about is not necessarily that management of late. We could do better on that end. That'll help the situation, but it's more about the build of the agenda itself.
Okay. Okay, yeah, I mean, any efficiencies that we can find. And just in regards to Councillor Cartmell's suggestion about if we pass this bylaw and then occasionally allow somebody not to turn their camera on for a vote, or to speak. I had eye surgery a couple years ago, and I did not want to be seen on camera with an eye patch, and I did take offense to Mayor Sohi asking me to turn my camera on. But you're forgiven. But I'm just, would that require, because it would be embedded in the bylaw, would that then require a vote by council to allow someone to keep their camera off?
No, the way the proposed amendment is worded, it still retains that discretion for the chair to exempt a councillor from that requirement.
Okay, okay, all right.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Paquette, then I'll have a couple of questions too. Councillor Paquette.
Yeah, thank you. So I'm just thinking about the fact that I know that there have been times when councillors have been extremely ill or having just gone through a medical procedure or something, and they still want to work. But turning on their camera, as Councillor Wright alluded to, could be potentially embarrassing. So I just want to follow up on that question about provisions for such situations.
Councillor Paquette, the wording of the amendment is intentionally broad. It didn't list reasons why the chair made that decision. It's just unless otherwise directed or approved by the chair.
Right. Okay. So presumably a councillor could maybe discuss with the mayor beforehand and with the clerks and say, you know, hey, this is the situation, and then that proper compassion can be afforded.
As the city clerk mentioned, the chair is responsible for decorum, so absolutely that would be within the realm of their conversation.
I just like keeping the chair in the, or the clerks in the loop. But all right, so that makes a lot of sense. And yeah, so I guess that would also cover times when councillors or the mayor are traveling on city business and might be in an airport and things are a bit hectic and they just don't want to see a whole bunch of people walking around in the background when they're in a small cubicle or something. So because that could be potentially distracting to the meeting. So those are the sort of the provisions that would be included.
Again, we've left the wording very broad rather than trying to list the various circumstances. It sets the rules of when your camera should be on with a very broad unless otherwise approved by the chair. So it opens the option for any member of council to have a conversation with the chair, describe the circumstances, and for you to decide what's appropriate.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense and appreciate that. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Councillor Cartmel, can you take the chair, please?
I have the chair.
So on the timelines for us to, or like you deal, like your resources fluctuate from time to time, right? In the city clerk's office.
Yep, for sure.
And what I hear is that it's becoming difficult to get everything out 10 days in advance, right?
We do. It was much more difficult earlier than in the year when these discussions originated. It's now August.
Yeah, right. And I understand, like your staff works tirelessly, and they try to get as quickly as much as possible all the information out because you believe in transparency. You want to have being here for 3 years and being here for 8 years before that, right? As a council, I have seen how tirelessly city clerk's office works to get the information out to public as quickly as possible, right? So maybe it's a structural issue in a way that maybe you need to be recognizing the fluctuation in resources. Either resources are provided or, maybe this is to Eddie, maybe timelines need to be extended on how much time is given to administration from council to prepare those reports that give you a little bit more flexibility to give additional time to the clerk's office. I think we now require 3 weeks for like how much time do we require for reports to be prepared? 12 weeks? 13 weeks,
It's
right?
typically 13 weeks typically between a motion
Maybe that
and a
needs
report.
to go up to 15 weeks, right? So that give you a little bit more time to prepare the report, give it more time for clerk to load all that stuff onto a. So maybe it's a system that require some changes?
Yeah, certainly.
It's unreasonable to have pressure on clerk's office to get everything out if they cannot get it done.
Yeah, I don't know if this is an issue as much about the time frame to lead up to the report as it is building the agenda itself. Like, how does that happen? I'm sure that late reports and reports coming in a timely fashion play a role in that build. What we're talking about here is that from the time we're ready to build the agenda to the time it goes out the door, I think.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. I think it's kind of unreasonable that that clerk's staff be put in a situation where they're working hard and they just cannot meet that deadline, which is ours. We set that deadline, right? So I think it's important. Even if we want to go back to 10 days, I think we need to recognize the resource issue and support the clerk's office in order to meet those community expectations of 10 days. Maybe I'm speaking to it, sorry. I'll take the chair back.
Return the chair.
Yeah, and I'll go to Councillor Tang.
Just a couple more questions on the camera piece. I think some of the boards I'm on has a requirement about at least camera on no matter where you are, even if you're driving, for especially in-camera portions, which is totally understandable for confirming confidentiality and that kind of stuff. I don't know if that's the middle ground that Councilor Carmel was kind of mentioning earlier. I don't know if that serves that, but certainly I'm okay with that. But just I think we talked about this, but I don't really remember the answer, so I wouldn't mind maybe a more thorough answer. What about those who are in areas that might have unstable internet and they have to call in?
Yeah, again, this wasn't designed or brought forward to completely say 100% this could never happen. There's always discretion, discretion of the chair, and there are always issues that happen. Sometimes you would have to call in. Again, this goes back to before this didn't actually used to be a practice that was allowed at all, and so councillors, if they were within the boundaries of the city, this wasn't something that was permitted. So just after COVID, there was a lot more flexibility that was given. We've just noticed some challenges, and so it was recommended by best practice. Again, with some of the experiences in Calgary, we always like to learn from our colleagues. And so, again, flexibility on how you participate, whether it's remotely or in person, that's up to each councillor. And when voting, that's our recommendation. But again, these are your rules, and we're happy to adapt them as required. Yeah. And again, it is the chair, not the clerk, that maintains decorum in the meeting.
Yeah. Yeah, and because I think typically when we have meetings and committees, we are here, right? But I can think of a few instances where I had to kind of travel for an ABC meeting that's like out of town, but that's also part of my duty as an elected official to fulfill. So I guess I'm just thinking about, I mean, I hear you, this isn't completely set in stone, and there's not set in stone, but it's like not so black and white. I guess
more I would say the intention was more the 80-20 rule. There are circumstances that happen out with everybody's control. Councillor has had to make, in the past, previous councils have had to pass motions to provide flexibility that was even outside what was permitted because life happens, and this was not about saying that could never happen. Okay. It was just more the majority of the time, if you're voting or speaking, have your cameras on.
And if there's extenuous circumstance, we can just like let
those are conversations with the chair. 100%.
Okay. And then just one last thing. So with this motion on the table now, a yes vote doesn't mean just deleting. It's voting the bylaw with those changes, which means we will be voting yes for on camera, voting yes for status quo. Correct?
So the motion on the floor is the bylaw with the sections 3 and 4 with removed, which is about changing the agenda distribution. Yeah. So
this but the first part doesn't, we're not touching it.
And you can vote yes for the first reading and no for the second reading. Yeah. You vote however you want.
Okay.
You can change your mind.
Okay.
There's 4 votes required for this to pass.
Just wanted to make sure I know what I'm voting on. Okay, thank you.
Okay. All right, so that concludes. So we will be voting for the first reading of the bylaw with deletion of section 3 and 4, right? Okay, all right. Okay, the questions are concluded. Anyone to speak? I see none. So Councillor Jans to close. Oh, Councillor Jans to close.
Yeah, I think I'm in one of those situations now where I may be voting against the
Can you turn
bylaw.
your camera on? Are you able to turn your camera on?
I would need a minute. I think this may be one of those situations where I may be voting
Well,
against
you're not
the
answering my
bylaw
question. As
today.
chair, I'm asking you a question, Councillor Jans. Are you able to turn your camera on?
I would need to move location so I do not betray the privacy of a child I have at home.
Got it. Okay, then continue your speaking.
Yeah, that's the other element that we didn't touch on is taking care of sick kids. But yeah, anyhow, I may be voting against the amendment here because of the challenge with just that my colleagues have flagged related to the camera requirement. Certainly, I think if we're asked, yeah, we can absolutely turn our cameras on, and I think there's been some clear points about the challenges of the 10 days raised by the community, or the challenges of the absence of the 10 days raised by the community. Thank you.
All right, so please vote.
Just give us 2 seconds. MJ just needs to refresh, and we'll send the vote out for first reading as amended.
I'm a no.
Thanks, Councillor Wright.
Oh, just hold on.
Just wait. Just waiting on a few more votes.
It doesn't show my screen. No.
Thanks, Councillor Rice.
Yes.
Yes.
Thanks, Councillor Cartmel. Thank you, Councillor Jans. We have all the votes.
Okay, display the votes, please. Okay, that is carried. Okay. So, can you move the second read, Councillor Jans?
So now we're voting on the bylaw as amended.
No, we are voting on the bylaw as originally presented. No?
We're voting on second reading.
Oh, second reading. Oh, yeah, second reading, as amended.
Yes.
As
Yes.
amended, yeah, here you go. Okay, sorry. As
Okay.
amended. Here it's on the screen now. Okay.
And just to clarify, so that amendment removed the 10-day provision, or removed the restored the 10-day
I
provision.
think we're not speaking to it anymore. We haven't spoken to it.
Sure.
We're voting on the second reading, right?
Well, I think it's just been put on the floor.
Yeah.
And who is the seconder?
I need a seconder. Seconder, I'll second Councillor Tang is
Yeah,
seconded.
and if they're happy to take any questions.
Okay, now we go to questions. All right. Councillor Jans, you have questions?
Thank you. I just wanted to confirm. So the amendment that just passed, it removed the change to the 10-day provision. So that is restored to status quo. Now the only change remaining in this bylaw is the requirement for cameras to be on.
That's correct.
Okay, thank you.
Well, if you need clarity, please sign up to seek that clarity. Okay, all right, so we are voting on the second reading. Anyone to speak to the second reading as amended? Okay, please vote.
I am a no.
Thanks, Councillor Jones. We're just waiting. MJ's just going to scroll up. We have all the votes.
Okay, display the vote. That is defeated. Okay. Deal 8.2, 8.3 was dealt with. All the bylaws are dealt with, right?
Yeah, that's correct. Your next item is 9.2 and 9.3.
I can move that we move into private.
Just hold on, just give me 1 second. I just want to make sure that I have everything. Here we go. Now we are going into 9.2 and 9.3. So, Councillor Stevenson, you're moving and going in camera.
Thank you.
Seconded by,
Well, I'll just subject to section 17 and 24 of the FOIP Act.
Second.
okay. All right, so please vote.
Would you mind terribly doing it with unanimous consent?
Consent.
Thank you so
Unanimous
much.
consent.
And if you could just give us a few minutes to close the door, and if any members of administration that are not part of the civic The doors are open and we are back online, Mayor Sohi.
Okay, we are back in public.
And so if we could go to item 9.2, and if we could just go slowly, there are revised motions for item 9.2, not the ones that were in the report.
Okay, Councilor Salvador?
Yep. Happy to move that attachment 1 of the June 17th, 2024 Office of the City Clerk Report, OCC 02502, be revised as per the discussion at the August 20th, 2021-2024 City Council meeting, and that the actions be approved. That attachment 4 be added to the June 17th, 2024 Office of the City Clerk Report, OCC 02502, and that the actions be approved. That the June 17th, 2024 Office of the City Clerk Report, OCC 02502, and attachments 2, 3, and 4 remain private pursuant to sections 17 and 24 of the Freedom of Information Protection of Privacy Act, and that revised attachment 1 of the June 17th, 2024 Office of the City Clerk Report, OCC 02502, remain private pursuant to sections 29 of the Freedom of Information and Protection of Privacy Act.
Need a seconder?
Second.
Councilor Rutherford? Okay. Okay, so please vote.
I'm a yes.
Thanks, Councillor Rice.
Councillor Wright is yes.
Thanks, Councillor Wright.
Councillor Hamilton's a yes.
Thanks, Councillor Hamilton. We have all the votes.
Display the votes, please. That is carried.
Yeah, there's a second report.
9.3. Councilor Salvador?
So I'll move that the actions in attachment 1 of the August 20th, 2024 Office of City Clerk Report be approved, that the August 20th, 2024 Office of City Clerk Report remain private pursuant to section 17 and 24 of the Freedom of Information Protection and Privacy Act, that attachment 1 of the August 20th, 2024 Office of City Clerk Report remain private pursuant to section 29 of the Freedom of Information and Protection and Privacy Act.
Second.
Thank you, Councilor Salvador and Councilor Rutherford. So please vote.
Councillor Wright's a yes.
Thanks, Councillor Wright. Can you help us out? One moment, we're just refreshing. We appear to be stuck. Oh, here we go. Councillor Wright is a yes, and we have all the votes.
Display the votes, please. That is carried. Moving on to 9.5, Councilor Knack.
And we're just adjusting the recommendation from the report, so MJ will put the revised motion perhaps on the screen.
Fantastic. Are we essentially removing number 2?
Yep, and if there was
Then
a
I can just-
seconder, we can post it.
Yeah, I'll just read it out with the revised, so that the actions in attachment 1 of the August 20th, 2024 Office City Clerk Report be approved. Number 2, which is that the August 20th Office of City Clerk Report remain private pursuant to sections 17 and 24 of the Freedom of Information Protection and Privacy Act. And number 3, that attachment 1 of the August 20th, 2024 Office of City Clerk Report remain private pursuant to section 29 of the Freedom of Information Protection and Privacy Act.
Second.
Okay, thank you. Please vote.
We're just waiting on 2 more votes.
Yes.
And Councillor Rutherford?
Yes.
Thank you, we have all the vote.
Display the votes, please. That is carried. And 9.6, Councillor Stevenson, Edmonton Police Commission, recruitment.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm happy to move that the Edmonton Police Commission recruitment profile is set out in attachment 1 of the August 20th, 2024 Office of the City Clerk Report OCC 02581 be revised as per the discussion at the August 20th, 21st, 2024 City Council meeting and be approved. That the Edmonton Police Commission recruitment strategy as set out in attachment 2 of the aforementioned report be approved, and that the aforementioned report remain private pursuant to section 17 and 24 of FOIP.
Second.
Thank you. So please vote. Yes.
Thanks, Mayor Sohi.
I'm yes.
Thank you, Councillor Rice. We have all the votes.
Display the votes, please. That is carried. Okay, so that deals with those reports. And we are on to motions pending, right?
That's correct.
Okay, the first one is 10.1, progress update on Blatchford development. Councillor Piquet. Councillor Piquet.
Yeah, Mr. Mayor. I've been in conversations with administration and with the ward councillor, and I feel that there is a better way to go about this, especially considering that we're getting an update very shortly anyway from administration. So I'm going to withdraw this and save the concepts for a more opportune time.
Yeah, so you're not putting it on the floor.
That is correct.
Yeah, that's
Yep,
good.
that's correct. We'll just move on to 10.2.
Okay. All right, 10.2, Councillor, that's early learning and care. Councillor Piquet.
Yeah, just give me a moment to pull it up. I had it and now I just lost it. So
We can put it on the screen for you if that's helpful, Councillor.
that would be very helpful. Thank you.
Just doing that right now.
Okay, so that administration worked with the Edmonton Council for Early Learning and Care to bring forward an unfunded service package for consideration as part of the fall 2024 supplemental operating budget adjustment to advance the early learning and childcare policy and advocacy goals related to the city plan and the Edmonton Economic Action Plan as outlined in attachment 1 of the September 18th, 2023 Urban Planning and Economy Report UPE 00769. Yeah.
Need a seconder?
I'm still second.
Councillor Knack seconded it. Can you make the introduction, please?
Thank you, and thank you for that. Second for democracy. So I think everyone would have received in their inbox some information from the Edmonton Council for Early Learning and Care about this. It's essentially, it's sort of fallen off the radar, but the city of Edmonton does have an approach to these things, and we do include this already in our planning, the consideration for early learning and care. However, given some of the federal announcements and the need for provincial participation, I think that this group was talking about maybe the role Edmonton plays in ensuring that early learning care is a priority and that we're getting the appropriate funds in Edmonton regarding this. And what they're asking for is this unfunded service package for council's deliberation. And as for where funding might come from, that is still to be discussed. However, in our discussion yesterday about another issue, one of the things that was brought up was even in the search for potential funding sources, we may find a few of the coins and nickels that we need in still undiscovered places. So I would I would say that there's a twofold purpose to this, and one is to ensure that we're on the right side of our own policy and direction, especially after the dissolution of Ed and Poverty Edmonton. And then the second is that even in the process of looking for this, we may find dollars that we might not have otherwise found without an intentional search. So that would be the introduction. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Paquette. Questions? Now, Councillor Knack.
Yeah, thank you to the mover. So maybe I'll start with the mover and then maybe go to administration just to confirm. So the motion references the attachment 1 of the September 18th report. And when I read through that attachment, so actions 1 through 6 are city jurisdiction. All of them were either listed as ongoing or in progress, or I think the first one is complete. So I think where maybe I'm still struggling a little bit is what are we funding that isn't already being done as outlined in that report? Or what would we potentially be considering funding, since I appreciate that this is just for a service package?
Yeah, and that's a good question. And the ECELC has indicated that that report may be out of date, and they would like to see an update. And then the next question is that what they were looking to fund, I think, is an FTE. And so there is a possibility that if this passes as an unfunded service package, what we come back with is a way for administration to say, oh, you know what? We have figured out a way to forward this work without actually increasing budget. That is another option that may result from the passing of this motion.
Okay. Is there anyone from administration who just wanted to offer any thoughts on that? So is that, for you, that would sort of be the conversation more about funding an FTE to sort of further advance that work?
Councillor Knack, yes, it would. I think we had a similar service package in the fall budget last year, and I think it was for about 250,000. So sort of that 2-year time frame to work with the early learning childhood group on advocacy and coordination with provincial, federal bodies of work. So yes, that was sort of to give you a sense of that scale of budget.
So, and again, yeah, because I think I remember that service package. So again, the idea would be, I mean, I don't want to oversimplify, but I just, for the sake of my knowledge here, is essentially we'd be looking to bring somebody on to primarily help us with advocacy to the other 2 orders of government as outlined in actions, I think 7 through 10 of that report. Is that more of what that purpose would be? Is that?
Yes. So as you know, jurisdiction for childcare, it generally rests with the provincial government, who also control the federal funding dollars. So there's the funding that's coming from the federal government in terms of the agreement around affordable, high quality healthcare or childcare in Alberta. So it'd be like trying to work to better advocate for how that funding could support childcare spaces in communities across Edmonton. But yes, it would be to look at the actions that were identified previously, if there are updates to be made in terms of prioritizing that, and work with the early learning childcare folks to help with that advocacy. Yes.
And how do you feel about, so I guess sort of the question is, I think in action 9 and 10, it sort of talks about the work that groups like Alberta Municipalities and FCM are doing on this. And so I guess I'm curious if trying to get a sense, I'm doing my best to try to give as much of an opportunity as possible, but I'm also wondering what we'd be able to do differently than FCM and NAB Munis on this.
It would be another voice, I guess, from a municipal perspective to help with the advocacy on this. At this time in administration, we recognize this is important work, but we're not recommending, and previously in the council report or the committee report back in September, in terms of trying to address our budget deficit and focus on core matters to municipal responsibility and jurisdiction, this hasn't been an area that we have prioritized at this point.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Those are my questions.
Yep. maybe, Councillor Hamilton, can you take the chair, please?
I have the chair.
Thank you. So I have a couple of questions. Kim, we'll stay with you. I think the work that we have been doing or would do is important, and I am absolutely committed to this work. Is there other way? For example, we have intergovernmental affairs folks, right? And they engage with province, they engage with federal government. My office does that as well. Is there ways to assist with that advocacy without allocating additional resources within the, because I think this is important work. I think we can achieve it without having put more resources toward it. I'm committed to doing that work through my office as well, right? So is there ways to kind of do that within the existing resources?
I would maybe look for someone from that team to comment on, but I would say council, through the work of administration, has been committed to supporting more childcare spaces in the city of Edmonton.
Yes.
Through the Economic Action Plan had a grant which resulted in more childcare spaces. The changes to the zoning bylaw most recently have enabled more opportunities for childcare spaces across the city. And certainly from a policy direction, we recognize its importance. So I'll maybe just pause to see if anyone from the team can comment on the intergovernmental work around including childcare advocacy as a priority.
Maybe I can jump in.
Yeah.
Certainly, council drives the priorities of the conversations that we have. So when we have those intergovernmental conversations on what we were prioritizing for conversation at different levels of government, that is something that we can include in the conversation if council chooses to see that as a priority for us to advocate for. So.
Yeah, absolutely. I think some of that work is being done at Alberta Munis as well. Some is being done at EFC, the FCM as well. And my office, we had conversation with the various ministers on this as well. I think we can probably to some extent meet the expectations of the community by working more collaboratively with each other without adding resources. Okay, that'll be my perspective. And so, Kim, on as far as what is in our purview under city's authority, and we are doing all that work, right? Through zoning regulations and opening up more spaces where possible, right? We're doing that. You don't need additional resources to scale up that work if needed to be scaled up.
Correct. We don't need any direction around that, and much of that, all of that has been completed, and that was part of what we shared through the Urban Planning Committee report in September of 2023.
Got it. Okay. Thanks. I will take the chair back. All right. We have motion on the floor. Anyone to speak? Okay, Councillor Paquette to close? Sorry, Councillor Knack is speaking? Okay, sorry. No, Councillor Knack, go ahead, please. There you go.
Slowly clicking on. Thanks, Mayor Sohi. A deep sigh, that's the intro for me, because I really, I completely get it. Here's my struggle, which I'm sure was many of the same points many of you made yesterday about one of my motions. So I feel like I'm going to share this, which is that I think my order of priority of if we freed up money tomorrow and we could reallocate that to other things going to the next year's budget. I think number one on my list is going to be turf maintenance. Number two is going to be bylaw enforcement. Number three is probably the infrastructure renewal that Councillor Salvador's been talking about. And number four was probably my motion that I had made. And I think this would be pretty close, in that top. But I'm not sure we were going to even get to number four, if we're being frank. And it's going to be a tough time to get to even two or three on my list of what I just listed out. So I'm in this tough scenario of not wanting to give false hope, similar to I think what many of you had suggested yesterday. I think the only thing I'll flag on this that I think that I think is important is that I know this is a topic that is being talked about regularly at Alberta municipalities. I think, in fact, the committee that Councillor Tang has been chairing, I know childcare has come up. I don't know where that's at the recent piece, but I know AB Muniz is working on that quite a bit. And so I think the only thing I would suggest is just because I hate just to say no and make it seem like we don't care, but a little to your point, Mayor Sohi, I think if there needs to be some further advocacy and work, maybe it's something that can be done led by your office versus trying to find that extra person to put within administration. I think it's just a matter of each of us seeing to use our resources to be advocating to make those changes. So painfully, I'm gonna say no, but it's not a fun no. Some no's actually can be fun, but not this one. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Knack. Councillor Cartmel, can you take the chair?
I have the chair.
Very quickly, if resources were unlimited, then I would definitely look at creating this position. But I think we can do the work without creating this position by working together with Alberta municipalities, with Federation of Canadian Municipalities, supplement to the work they are doing through my office and intergovernmental relations department within the city of Edmonton. So I think we can advance some of this work without adding opposition. And we will monitor that. How is that going? We'll continue to work with community and advocates on this and continue to monitor. And as our finances improve, if there's an opportunity to see a need to be added more resources, I will definitely be open to that. I also, as stated yesterday, and I'll state today as Councillor Knack has done, advancing unfunded service packages does give communities sometimes the false hope that somehow it get funded, right? And I think recognizing how tough the situation is, we would not be able to fund this service. So I think it's better to be transparent now instead of waiting a couple of months and then saying no. I think that from my perspective, that transparency is important. We are in very difficult position. Financial situation is very tough. Councillor Knack identified 3-4 things that he would like to prioritize. I think we'll be pleased if we actually find money for turf maintenance to the level that we need to instead of other priority. I think that's how tough the situation is, unless we want to raise taxes to the level that will be unacceptable for people. So that's kind of a reality that we're facing, unfortunately. But as we get out of structural issues and be in a better position, then we can definitely supplement the work. But I'm committed to working with the community and our intergovernmental department, as well as province, federal government, and other advocacy organizations, Alberta Muniz and FCM, to advance this work, because this is important work. Thank you.
Turn the chair.
Thank you. With that, Councillor Paquette to close.
Oh, thank you, Mr. Mayor. And understood. Tight budget times for sure. I would say that from what I've heard, what I'm hoping is that there then is some leadership demonstrated by council in directing administration to work with the Edmonton Council for Early Learning and Childcare to advance some of the things that everyone agrees is so important, and yet we cannot fund. And I would say that if we are not giving people false hope, that's good. But we also should probably be thinking about how we do give hope to people. And part of that is acknowledging in the work of council and the direction of council that youth, especially youth who are at a disadvantage, and that usually falls under immigrant or Indigenous youth, these children, especially in the early learning stages, require support from every corner. And there are potentially other things that are council driven, roundtables, grant programs, et cetera, that maybe should be taken a look at for the return on investment that can be expected and the social return on investment. And maybe those things should be reprioritized according to that matrix. For the amounts that we were talking about recently, there are surely ways to accomplish important goals. And I am very confident that this council will find a way to do that. For those who are listening, I will say that I can say that in conversations with council, with administration, with the mayor, there are tough decisions to be made. But sometimes those tough decisions also mean not just cuts and not just saying no, but sometimes the toughest decision is in saying yes. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Paquette. So please vote.
MJ's just sending the vote out.
Councillor Wright's a no.
Thanks, Councillor Wright. Just waiting for about 5 more votes.
Oh, wait, I voted wrong.
Who's?
Okay, I changed it.
Yeah, yep, you're all good. The vote's still open. We're just waiting on 3, maybe 4 votes. 3.
No.
Thanks, Councillor Cartmel. Councillor
No.
Wright? Sorry, Councillor Rice, I cut you off.
I'm no.
Thank you very much. And Councillor Jans?
No.
Thank you. We have all the votes.
Display the votes, please. That has defeated. Okay. Is that, notice of motions without customary notice?
I have one, if I may.
Oh,
just
can you, are you?
I don't know that I'm actually entitled to make motions without customary notice.
Well,
but
we can amend the bylaws.
no, let's not go. No, let's
Just
not
kidding,
try that.
come on.
Thank you. So if possible, if somebody would waive the right to provide notice, again, just to further to item 9.9 that was deleted, the city manager would like to bring an update, and in consultation with the city auditor, we could make that happen on the afternoon of September 4th.
So I can
Councillor
move
Stevenson? Yeah.
that council waive the rules on providing notice of motions as set out in section 32 of bylaw 18155, council procedures bylaw, to allow Councillor Salvador to make a motion without notice regarding changes to the September 2024 council calendar.
Okay. Need a
Second.
second, Councillor Rutherford second that, so let's vote on waiving the rules.
Yeah, the vote is now live. We're just waiting for 4 more votes. 3, 2.
I'm a yes.
Thanks, Councillor Paquette. We have all the votes.
Display the votes, please. That is carried. Now, Councillor Salvador.
Yeah, I'll move that the orders of the day for the September 4th, 2024 Audit Committee meeting be changed to adjourn at noon, and that a special city council meeting be scheduled on September 4th, 2024 from 1:30 p.m. to 5 p.m. for the purpose of a city manager update.
Second.
All right, so we have motion on the floor. Questions? Councillor Hamilton?
I just want to speak to it.
Okay. Any other questions? Seeing none. Okay, to speak, Councillor Hamilton?
Yeah, I just wanted to say I'm not going to support this. I know that there's a somewhat urgent matter that the city manager would like to discuss, but I would have liked some dates circulated. I have personal commitments that can't be moved, and I'm not on audit committee, so I had scheduled things at a time when it worked in my schedule, and once again we're doing these things on the fly, and it's frankly a bit inconsiderate to all of our schedules. So I'm not going to support this. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Salvador to close? No? Okay, let's vote, please.
Just waiting for one more.
Okay,
We have all the votes.
display the votes, please. That is carried. Any other notes of motions or motions without customary notice?
I have a notice of motion.
Go ahead, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I believe the clerk has the wording. The notice of motion is that administration provide a report outlining low-cost opportunities to increase the efficiency of the top bus routes that consistently exceed productivity standards for bus boardings during peak hours as defined through the transit service policy, which could include creating bus lanes, adjustments to parking, or inclusion of tow-away zones. And this is for due date 2025 Q1 to council or...
They'll be done at when you move the actual motion. Today's just a notice.
Okay, notice provided then.
Yeah, thank you.
Notice for what committee or council?
To
No,
council.
so the process for giving notice is where are you going to give the notice and when are you going to give the notice? Not when the report comes back if it
Yeah.
passes, so just.
But the notice is given, but the motion will be moved at council.
I would love that if Councillor Jans could confirm.
Or, so where would you like to move that, at council?
I would like to debate this at council.
At council? Okay, well, that's his wish, right? So, okay, all right. Okay, anything else? We are adjourned.